Hi, I'm Dina D'Ambrosi. Welcome to Delicious and Light again. So tonight I'm going to be making beef chili, and we're going over some friend's house tomorrow. So this is one of those recipes that's great. You can make it the night before and then just heat it up the next day because it's a slow cook. So you want to have some time. So you could start this tonight, and I could either throw it in the crock pot tomorrow and just have it warm up all day, or put it on a slow cook, or I can heat it up in the pot. So you're probably wondering why I'm using this type of beef. A lot of people use ground beef, and you definitely can, but I chose to use a London broil instead for a couple reasons. One is, when I eat chili, I like to have a nice big chunk of meat. It's a personal preference, and I found that a lot of people do. When I make this kind of chili, they really love it. They like to bite into some beef instead of it just being real tiny ground up beef. And I'm using London broil because it's one of the leanest beefs you can use, and it's a little tough. So the nice thing is, since you're cooking it for such a long period of time, it really makes it much more tender. If, however, you are a traditionalist and you want to use ground beef, by all means you can do that. Look for 93% lean, so that means there's only about 7% fat in it, and what that will do is really cut down the calories and fat. So all I'm doing is I'm cutting this London broil into bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to add it to my pan and brown it, and season it with salt and pepper. I have a 2-pound London broil here, which is going to serve 8 people. And then the other ingredients I'm going to be putting in is oregano, smoked paprika, liquid smoke, garlic powder, salt, pepper, crushed tomatoes, chili sauce, onions, and whiskey. So you can use any kind of whiskey you want. In the past, I've used Jack Daniels. I've used all different kinds of whiskey. If you like it a little sweeter, Jack Daniels is probably really good to use. So I'm just going to finish cutting this up, and then I'm going to add it to the frying pan and brown it. I'll be with you in a second. Alright, so my meat is all cubed. I'm just going to put it in the pan and get that cooking and browning up. Just want to get that all in, and then from there you just want to put some salt and pepper in there to season it. You don't have to worry about cooking the beef. All you're doing at this point is browning it. So just stir it around. Make sure that everything's getting browned, that all the pieces are getting browned, and not just the ones on the bottom. And this is going to brown probably for about 5 minutes. Alright, so our beef is mostly browned at this point. I'm going to add, and this ended up being one very large onion, so it's about 2 cups of onion. And all you want to do is cook that until the onion doesn't have to brown, but you just want it to get soft. So typically what I'll do is, to help that along a little bit, I'll put the lid on it, let the juices come out of the onion so it'll get very moist, and then I'll take the lid off, and then at the last minute just brown it up a little bit. But again, you don't want your onion too brown, you just really want it soft and translucent. Alright, so the onions are just about ready, and when they're nice and soft, you want to take 2 cloves of garlic and add that to the pot. Ooh, ran away. Mince that up the way you usually do, and then just let that cook for about a minute. Once that is cooked down, you want to add anywhere from 2 tablespoons to about 1/4 cup of whiskey. So just add that in there and let that boil up, and let it also cook down a bit. From here, you're going to start making your sauce, but what you want to do is put your whiskey in and let it cook down so that your chili doesn't taste like alcohol. I also did not mention chili peppers when I originally talked about the ingredients, but by all means, put some fresh chili peppers in here, as many as you like. I don't know how you like the heat. I'm going to add one right after I have this whiskey cooked down a little bit, and then I'll add a chili pepper to it. All right, so as the whiskey is cooking down, I'm going to add a jalapeno pepper to it. I also have 2 habaneros here. If you like it super hot, by all means you can add a habanero. I think for our purposes, I'm going to add 1 jalapeno, and then at the very end, before I serve it, I'm going to taste it for the last half hour, and if I feel like it needs a little more heat, I'll just add another one. So I always use gloves whenever I work with any type of chili pepper. I think that's a safe thing to do, and I like to cut it real small, because if you touch this and then touch your eyes or touch your face, you could hurt yourself. So I always use gloves to be on the safe side. So that whiskey is cooking down nicely, and just to let you know, this recipe will be on deliciouslight.com, so check out the website, and all the instructions and ingredients will be on there for you. Also, like us on Facebook and YouTube as well. So I've got my jalapenos ready, so I'm just going to add them in. And what I did too to cut down on the heat a little bit was I cut them in half and I de-seeded it so that it won't be quite as strong. But as a personal preference, if you're not sure how hot the jalapeno is, then de-seed it. Use 1 jalapeno, but have 1 to spare just in case. And if you know you like it super hot, then by all means add your habaneros. All right, from here we're just going to make the sauce that goes in the chili. So we're going to use 1 can of fresh tomatoes, 2 jars of chili sauce. And the chili sauce always, whenever I start, it never completely comes out. So I just put it upside down and wait for the rest of it to come down, and then I put it back in there as I open this one. So that's 1 jar, 2 jars of chili sauce, and then from here I'm going to put my spices in. I'm also going to lower the heat because we're going to eventually bring this to a simmer. So the first thing I have is 1 tablespoon of paprika. Add that to the sauce. You want to add a tablespoon of onion powder. A tablespoon of garlic powder. Teaspoon of hickory smoke, half a teaspoon of liquid smoke. Liquid smoke is interesting because it's super powerful, but when it cooks for a long time, sometimes it loses its flavor. So I start with a half a teaspoon, which is actually a lot, but then I'll taste it later on. Chili's one of those dishes that you want to taste along the way as it's simmering to see if you've got enough. And last but definitely not least, 2 tablespoons of chili powder. I cook a lot with chili powder. I've got a chicken dish that's phenomenal that I use a lot of chili powder in. So 2 tablespoons of chili powder. And this is the wonderful thing about chili. After you've got all your ingredients in, you just let that simmer for a minimum of 2 hours. If you want, you can transfer this to a crock pot. So you cook it on low for anything between 4 to 6 hours, or cook it on high for about 2 hours in your crock pot if you want. And that's it. So then we're gonna let this simmer for the next 2 hours. And then what you wanna do is about a half hour before you're going to serve it, I rinse out black beans and I put them in the pot and let it continue to simmer. Now, interesting thing, chili is traditionally made with red kidney beans. However, over the years, making chili, I found that my family and friends like the black beans better. Oh, my goodness, I forgot the oregano. You want to put in a tablespoon of oregano as well. Let's not forget the oregano. And it always helps to have all the ingredients out in front of you before you ever start a dish so that you can remember like I just did and you don't forget anything. So again, we're just going to let this simmer for the next 2 hours or so, and then if everything tastes good, I'm going to just rinse out the black beans, put them in the pot, let them simmer for the last half hour, and that is it. And then we'll enjoy it with cheddar cheese, sour cream, tortilla chips, whatever you like. Just to last note on this is this show is supported by Apex Nova. We do a 2-week character education and fundraising program for elementary schools, so check us out there too. Thanks, until later. All right, so it's been a couple hours. My chili has been simmering. The cover was on. I just took it off, and so I'm going to taste it, see if it needs anything. And if it doesn't, then I'm just going to put the beans in and it'll be all good. That's perfect. Perfect heat, perfect flavoring, nice smoky flavor. But if I felt like it needed anything, this last 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever time you want, is the great time to add the last of your seasonings. But this is fantastic. So I'm just going to put the lid back on this. Add the beans, and voila, chili will be done for friends. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.